Boom. Oh, fuck, I missed it. It's all good. Madeline it up. If you're listening, rate, share, subscribe. You know, we want to connect with you. That's all we're trying to do over here. If you're listening, you could also watch on BigMood TV. We're doing things a little different this year. It's the first podcast recorded of the new year, so it's exciting. And really quickly, before I introduce my guest, each month of this year is going to be themed with some sort of ideology or like just concept. And this first month, January, is honesty. We're not going to get into like fully the depth of that right now, but we're going to see how honest this guest can get and like see where we can go with that and like how we could tie it in together. But today we have Jessica Burgio. She's a mentor. She's an educator, entrepreneur, founder of the Beauty Inspires Beauty podcast, and one of my oldest friend in San Diego.
Crazy.
Hi.
Hi.
What's going on?
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah?
Yes. It's been a long overdue.
So let's talk about where you're from, because it's important to know the origins of the entrepreneur. And I like to know the origins of the entrepreneur, because of course you have the rich people who stay rich and like become like their parents are rich and come from that. But I know that's not your case. And what you've managed to do and what I've watched you do just over the last 5 years is impressive. So let's talk about where you come from and how it ties in and how those values are brought into what you do today.
It's so cool when someone actually has seen your journey. So like what you say actually has weight. So thank you for saying that. So I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, my mom and my stepdad. So my mom remarried when I was about 5. I should say she married. She had me at 19. So we didn't grow up with much. She was the youngest of 6, and I think they barely got by. I think my grandfather was in the military, drove a bus. My grandmother didn't work. So she didn't grow up seeing that. She grew up seeing hard work. And when she met my first stepdad, I think that was her first introduction to what entrepreneurship looked like. Now, did he do it right? No. He had that hustle, swindle, fake it till you make it. But he had that heart. And I think he pushed my mom into starting her own business, which was selling mobile homes, which is much like real estate. And she had worked for a bigger company and decided to open her own place when I was about, I think I was like 11 or 12. So watching her start that business and investing in herself and taking, all that responsibility on her own, that was something to watch. And early on, I learned what it really took, the time, the commitment, all of that to like be your own boss, to lead a team, to grow into leadership while you learned. And, she wasn't afraid to I don't want to say alienate herself, but stepping into that leadership role and managing people, it's different than being on the same team, right? Like you're not one of them anymore.
It's lonely.
It's a little lonely.
Yeah.
And when you don't know, or if you didn't have good, strong mentors to lead you, I think she did have some good examples of people who ran successful businesses, who in hindsight, she probably thinks of as mentors or people who paved the way, but she truly figured it out on her own. And we would drive in the minivan up and down inside the mobile home parks, trying to get listings. And my mom, to me, that was old school guerrilla marketing. And watching her every weekend just put the work in. My mom worked 7 days a week. I hardly ever saw her.
Yeah.
And so that was ingrained in me. That's just what you did. So when people now, fast forward to the instant gratification and the things that people think should come so easy to them, they try once, they launch something once, they put themselves out there once, and they don't get the response they think they should get. It's like, I'm not the coach for you, because I won't hold your hand through that. Like, oh yeah, that didn't work the first time. You should switch it up. I came from watching someone put everything they had, every minute, sacrificing time with their family to get where they got. So not saying that that's the right way, but that's kind of a little bit of my background. But I grew up in San Diego. My whole family's here. I have 2 brothers, and my mom still owns that business to this day.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That idea of figuring it out. That's that idea of just figuring it out. And of course, I'm as a coach and you as a coach and mentors, we're kind of the shortcut, or at least that's what we're advertising, right?
Right. Right.
We're telling people like, hey, we can get you from here to here without these bumps in the road. But for me as a coach, I'm very proud of taking the long road. That's what's qualified you and I to be coaches, is that we didn't get it right off the block. We got it off of the trial and error, and you watching your mom in the trial and error and the just grinding it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you've seen that. So now you can exemplify that and you could express that to your clients.
Well, I really think a lot of her sacrifice was like the precursor and the runway for me to get where I'm at, which has taken 20 years of my own adult life. The sacrifices she made were for the greater good of, without her knowing, to give me more opportunity. It's almost like she was my first coach and mentor, right? Like she helped me skip road bumps. Not to say I haven't had all of my own, because everything she said, I did the exact opposite, because that's what you do as the first child, right? She doesn't know shit. I'm going to do it my way. But yeah, I think we do paint the picture for future clients that because we've invested in ourselves, because we've taken the long, hard road, because we've fucked up and we've spent the money and done the things that, yes, now working with us, we can get you there quicker and with a little bit more ease. Not to say it's going to be easy, but that's the idea of hiring somebody.
Absolutely.
It's to help you get there quicker with a little less pain and probably a little, less financial stress than needs to be if you figured it out on your own. Because you could. Everybody can figure shit out on their own.
Yeah.
Just a matter of, are you going to get it done?
Yeah. And how long is it going to take? Yeah. Let me ask you, what are the dynamics of your mentorship program?
So I started off with the idea of getting completely out of my industry. When I first started exploring what it would be like to coach and mentor, I really wanted to just work with early stage entrepreneurs because I felt like building the foundation is the key to anything. And once you have a good foundation, you can pivot, switch, do whatever it is you want. We've been in the fitness industry. I've been in the salon industry, behind the chair, owning a salon. I really felt like my time was to get away from the industry and just help more people on a general consensus. But what ended up happening, I feel like anytime you try to get away from something that raised you, it pulls you back. And I got busier and more people came to me for things I thought I was trying to get away from. So I really had to tap into what are my strengths and what am I good at? And I think a lot of times when you're looking to pivot or move into a new space, you really have to self-analyze and figure out what am I good at and what am I not good at? I didn't enjoy leading a team at the salon. I didn't enjoy managing at that level. I like to work with people who are already all in and want the guide to take them to the next place. So I opened up one-on-one coaching spots with people in my industry, hairdressers who were just looking to hit 6 figures in their business, but were having a hard time getting to that place. And, people come to you for coaching for one thing, but often it's there's other reasons why they're not achieving the one goal they think they want to come to you for. So while 6 figures was the lead to get the conversation going, it really opened up more the mindset, personal development stuff that I had built such a strong foundation with in fitness. And I felt like a lot of times people don't know what they don't know. I don't know what I don't know. But I learned through the coaching of that first year that I knew a lot more than I gave myself credit for when it came to holding space for people, working through mindset.
Let me stop you really quick. Holding space, what does that mean to you?
So 20 years of standing behind a chair, touching people and listening, I've learned it's not about me. So once I took myself out of the equation, I could give that client such a better experience if I made it all about them. And so a lot of clients would come to me I left my old hairdresser because they never listened to me. They didn't do what I said. They just did what they wanted. And I would think to myself, that's crazy. You asked for something specific, but they gave you something else. It was mind blowing. And so if you take that in relation to coaching, I could see the potential in somebody and kind of force direct them into that. But if they're not ready for that, if that's not really what they want or need, you're not being a good coach, because we're not meant to tell people what to do.
No.
We're meant to just be the guide.
Be the guide, ask good questions.
You're doing right now. So, and that's holding space to me means giving people a safe place to be themselves and to really explore what it is that's holding them back, what's causing them to have this imposter syndrome around not being who they want to be. And as you grow and evolve and experience new things, that changes. And I don't think we give ourselves the grace to like hold space for ourselves. Like I'm such a people pleaser that I can hold space for everybody else, but I didn't learn how to do that for myself until really recently.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a long time. It takes time to even acknowledge that. So beautiful honesty. Tie that bitch back. But yeah, it's that's something that it's hard to admit that we just don't know that we don't take the time to hold space for ourselves as coaches. But one thing to sustain ourselves in the coaching element is the continued nurturing of our intellect, nurturing of our spirit. That's how I find myself able to like pour and give to the extent that I'm able to give to like my partner, to my son, my clients, is continuing to do that work. I always tell people, well, what's your work? I don't know what your work is, but do your work. I don't know what that looks like. But
wait, let me stop you right there.
Go.
Because a lot of people, they don't know what their work is either. So, and I find that a lot of people that say they're doing the work or think they're doing the work, they're not doing the work. They're ingesting the stuff. They're listening to the things. They're reading the books. But they don't know how to take that information and integrate it into their life and actually apply it.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so I think that's where a coach or a mentor or somebody who's gone before you helps call you out on that shit.
I think you're 100% on point.
Because I mean, my best friend never listened to this, but she's the perfect example of we both ingested the same books, the same podcasts. And it wasn't until I started doing something with that information that my life started to shift and new opportunities started to literally fall in my lap.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like you're damned if you know too much, you can never go back.
Yeah.
It fucks you up a little bit, but then it like pushes you like, what do you want to be? What do you want to do with this?
Yeah.
But then you see people who think they're doing the work and they can't figure out why shit's not changing, why they're in the same patterns of repeating the same thing. They're dating the same people. They're having the same fucked up shit happen to them over and over again.
You know what I theorize are the two things that keep people stuck. Lack of integrity and a worthiness conversation.
Worthiness is huge.
The worthiness one is huge. I'm not worthy of that relationship. I'm not worthy of that. Before
that life,
before I started asking for a large ticket, I just had a hard time even believing that I was worth that, until, after practicing and like continuing to
show up,
receive and show up, and people offer me more money than I asked. And like, okay, it's being shown to me. Then I just started believing in myself as a person, and people started asking me questions. They're like, this motherfucker's answers. I was like, okay, so maybe I should charge a little bit more for this.
Well, and you're not perfect, are you?
No.
Do you have to be perfect to do this work?
No, not at all.
And that's the beautiful thing. Like once you realize like people are drawn to you for the flaws, for the things that the shit that you've been through, like that's what makes you such an incredible coach and you hold space like nobody's business either.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's why people are listening to the show right now.
Thank you.
Because in a way, like even though they're not with us right now, they're with us.
Yeah.
And so it's being able to put yourself out there in a way that you're okay with rejection.
Definitely.
You're okay with the no's. You're okay with if I'm not for you, that's okay.
And that's why I say integrity, because when you're out of integrity and someone says no, it's probably because you're exhibiting some sort of behavior or there's some sort of thought process that is unaligned with your values.
Right.
Like for me, you watch this, and my business was not going well. My sex addiction was going crazy. Is there a correlation there? Absolutely. I'm not in alignment with, I'm trying to tell people to have a clean mindset, take care of their body, and I'm over here lying, cheating, and stealing, essentially. So things don't work out. So it's the cheating. Are you spending too much money? Are you not growing spiritually? Or not reading the books? And you can't achieve this goal unless you're fully in alignment. And that takes work.
Right.
And that takes fucking honesty. Being honest with yourself. Honest self-appraisal. Looking at yourself every day like, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a selfish motherfucker right now? Which is hard. That's a whole different conversation.
Well, and we're on honesty, so let's call it out, because how many people do we know that are not honest with themselves?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you and I are the opposite of a lot of people who say, I'm so proud of myself for doing this, this, and this. And I'm like, cool, that's cool that you're proud of yourself for the one or two things that you should already fucking be doing. But What about the 10 other things that you're ignoring and you're not living in your truth because you're not showing up for yourself?
Absolutely.
But you're questioning why. But I did these 2 things perfectly. Like I should be awarded.
Yeah.
Like why is nothing manifesting for me? Why is shit not going right? And it's getting really honest with yourself. And I think having someone who can hold space for you like that, that's where I come in as a strong mentor, because I think being a female, but also being fairly masculine in that, like I can hold space on both levels to where if I call you out or if I bring things, like it's coming from a place of love and it's coming from a place of like, this isn't for the greater good of me. It's for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm thinking about you and the masculine. You do have masculine energy because you've had to raise a son essentially by yourself. Is that okay to say?
Yeah.
Okay. And then running a business. But I don't perceive you as super like exuding masculine energy. I don't see you that way. So it's interesting. Do you see yourself that way as highly masculine?
I think not as much as I used to. I think
Yeah, you were kind of a tough guy when I met you.
Yeah, I think it was a defense mechanism, which we know comes from trauma, which I was unaware of, like what that trauma was. I still am not super clear on it, but I do have a few turning points of conversation with my mom over the years that, you know, she said stuff to me like, well, I had to be your mom and your dad. So having a role model who was my mother try to be my father and my mother, like no wonder I have this, you know, these 2 personalities that want to show up as one way and then have a craving to show up as another. Like it's just, it's a reflection of how I was raised.
Yeah. Thinking about the masculine and feminine. So as much as I do, my men's group start this week. So it's like I'm really in this headspace.
Yeah.
It makes me think like, okay, because my theory is the reason we see toxic masculinity is because there's an absence of healthy masculine expression, right? Like my dad didn't know how to do what I'm doing and like hold space and vacillate between masculine and feminine. Like, you know, like
they didn't even know this conversation existed.
Know this is a thing,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So we can't even blame anybody.
Right.
But I think the same goes for women with the absence of healthy masculine leadership. Like, because you had to do what you thought masculine was, not what a healthy man showed you masculine was.
No, I just had to wing it. Same with my mom. She's the youngest of 6. And I remember her telling me a story of my grandpa. She was like 14. She came home from high school. And he looks up from the newspaper and he's like, what are you still doing here? And she was like, what do you mean? He's like, what are you still doing here? Basically like, why are you still in my house?
Yeah.
And she's like, I live here. He's like, you know, get out of here.
Yeah.
And that's most likely why my mom, you know, I hope she never listens to this podcast, but she doesn't know who my dad is.
Yeah.
She was 19. She was partying. She's like, I'm 40, almost 41 years old. And I've never met my father. Don't know who he is. And if you were raised by somebody who just showed you the harsh side of being a man, like could never hold space. And my grandmother was scared of my grandpa. So all she did was run around the house and, you know, make sure everybody was fed and never wasn't loving or kind. And in the however many years I had my grandparents, I saw them kiss on the cheek once.
Yeah.
And I was basically raised by them. So I didn't see affection. I didn't see that kind of loving behavior. All I saw was my grandma run around the house like a chicken with her head cut off and my grandpa do nothing. And I'm like, is this it?
Yeah.
And then my mom to do the exact opposite, to meet a man where my mom was basically like the breadwinner. And though he was an entrepreneur, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Piece of shit. My brother's dad's a piece of shit. So
honest.
Yeah, honest. And so I had zero guidance when it came to like what a father should look like, what any masculine.
Yeah. And then we wonder why we can't attract certain women.
Right.
You know.
But toxic going back to back to what you're talking about, because I love what you're doing in the conversation you're finally bringing out into the world, because it needs to be had. Because I'm not the only child who didn't grow up without a parent. A dad or a mom.
Oh, it's 30% actually.
30%. And I would imagine it to be even more. That's probably just what's reported. And the fact that like people don't talk about one of the parents not being around. So therefore, a lot of times the other parent seems to pick up the other traits. And so then it's like a confusion of like, what role is what?
Yeah.
And why do we have to have specific roles?
Exactly.
So that's the part where, you know, my grandpa just passed away, I don't know, a couple years ago, and he was almost 100. His mom lived to be 102. And it's like every 100 years, what the shift in the roles and like the opportunities that we have, how can we be doing the same thing that we were grown up taught?
Yeah.
It just almost doesn't even apply.
Yeah, it doesn't apply.
So we've kind of got to rewrite the script, and that's where, you know, men are showing up differently than they ever have. Women are showing up bigger than they ever have. And it's like being able to find a partner that allows you that space to be whoever you need to be your best self.
I always say I want to be loved in my fullest expression.
Yes.
And that's in both my masculine and feminine, because I am, you know me, I'm pretty even between the two. I have like a very strong feminine as well. But to love each other in our fullest expression of whatever energy we're in at that moment, and also being able to acknowledge when your partner's in that space, like in that like boss space, like that, you know, super woman space. You're like, okay, let me fall back. Let me let her run the show. And like being able to acknowledge that. I realized why so many things didn't work so many relationships didn't work in my life, is because I wasn't able to show up in the proper energy to create the polarity. I've read so many books about this shit. I'm actually, if you need a good book to read, All About Love by Bell Hooks. She just passed away actually, but it's an expression of what love looks like. Go ahead.
Well, and when you say too, like you're a few years younger than me, and it's like almost impossible because we have grown so much every couple of years. It's like, how can we expect somebody to know how to love us as we're learning to relove ourselves in every phase that we're going through?
Definitely. That's why I'm very
like how confusing for them too. That's confusing for us.
That's why I'm very particular about who I date,
right,
and like who I'm actually going to pair bond with. Like if you're not up on this language and like having this conversation, and if you can't have this conversation, then you're not for me. I'd rather be single, to be honest.
Well, just one makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why my last relationship went where it went, because, you know, even from the start of having, you know, regular talk therapy in my life, I learned a new language on how to cope with things. And when I wasn't as responsive like I used to be, that was confusing.
Yeah.
And so you try to bring that person along to learn the language with you. And if it just doesn't land the same, like it's like you're speaking two
different languages, and then you'll have that thing where the one or the other says, you don't even listen to me. And it's like, I hear you.
Yeah.
I just don't. You're just saying something that I just don't hear you. I hear everything you're saying. I can repeat it back to you, but we're not speaking the same fucking language. I did that shit for 6 years. I already know. It's I'm reading another book called The Conscious Relationship, and it's like understanding the polarities between the two. There needs to be the polarity, but there's a language and a culture that we create within that polarity. I'm speaking in like weird woo-woo fucking terms.
You are speaking in woo-woo terms, but at the same time, like when you have more ways to express yourself and communicate, the easier relationships get.
Absolutely.
Because when you only know like a linear language where you only know how to like say, rah, rah, you're wrong, I'm right. Like you can't express things. And so there's never like a come to Jesus where you both can understand each other, but like no one has to be right or wrong. You can live in that space of like, I hear you, I feel you, I'm holding space for you, but we don't have to agree, but we don't even have to have that conversation whether we agree or not. We can just move forward and grow.
I learned that it's not always agreement, but it's alignment.
Yeah.
It's not always, we don't always have to be in the same, you can have your thought, I have my thought, but can we align to a neutral place and win-win?
And alignment, you guys, alignment doesn't always mean it feels good.
Yeah, no,
people think alignment means it has to feel good. Or like when people want to shift and pivot in business and they're like, I just don't feel in alignment. I'm like, what does alignment mean to you? What do you think alignment is?
Yeah.
Is it like this made up happiness place that you think that you're going to feel all this like bliss? Because it's not. Yeah. Alignment is just you are showing up authentically as yourself. And when you're in alignment with partnership, like there's a lot of times where you got to agree to disagree, but then you got to understand like why or where that person's coming from.
Absolutely. And with proper communication, it's easy to not need to be right and to become aligned. I can compromise with most things if it's clearly communicated to me what's needed and what I can do and what I cannot do. If you give me the opportunity, and in relationships, we rob each other of that. He's supposed to know what I'm thinking. I'm supposed to know what she's thinking. Bitch, you didn't tell me. Why are you mad at me? You didn't even tell me what you wanted. I'm not doing something, but like you didn't even tell me what the thing was. You know, it's this thing. With proper communication, we can solve any problem.
Yep.
We can solve any problem. And we're getting off topic. So talk about Beauty Inspires Beauty.
So Beauty Inspires Beauty came from my passion, for the beauty industry. because it is a culture and an industry that raised me. And without it, I don't know who I would be. Stepping into this space of wildly creative, just unapologetically themselves people in this industry, at least when I started 20 years ago, like I was like, yeah, these are my people. And I don't know where this is going to lead me, but at some point, like I'm going to be a big deal in this industry. That was my goal. I thought I wanted to be, on stages and doing hair and all this crazy stuff. And when I was early in my career, I was at Signature, which is one of the biggest Paul Mitchell shows. And I saw a man named Win Claybaugh speak, and he's a motivational speaker. And he was very close with Paul Mitchell and all of that growing of that business. And the things that he talked about, the passion that he had for this industry, just the business side of making this a real industry. We're not just a bunch of people who couldn't get jobs, who didn't know what we wanted to do. Yeah, that was part of it. But it was like nobody expressed to you that you could be creative and make six figures or more and have a place in this industry or in this world where you were respected. And so creating and founding this thought of it's really about the be you. So I have this quote print in my house. And in it, it's all in like black letters, but the B and the YOU is in gold. And it's been in my house for years. And when I started Beauty Inspires Beauty, the BU stood out for me. And I was just like, this is one of the only industries where you truly get to be yourself. And it's the people who show up so authentically that really are successful in this industry. And so just having conversations around that and just supporting that and bringing awareness to, motivate and inspire people to be themselves. That's where it came from. That's my love of just being able to inspire and motivate people in whatever form that looks like. And so having my own company that at one point will have, give back components. When I had the opportunity several years ago to create, it was called Strong Girls for the YMCA. It was a give back program for teen girls who needed mentorship, who needed support, who didn't have a lot of at home, female role models to look up to. And we created this program for the Y that it really took off. And it was then that I realized like I want to mentor and help mostly women. I feel like I connect with women and just and be able to like open up people's eyes to what is possible. And I knew I had to go first in order to do that.
There you go.
I could have stayed real comfy behind the chair, making the 6+ figures that I made, traveling a little bit and just doing what I did. But I felt like a calling that, again, I felt out of alignment and out of integrity with what I knew was possible for myself.
Yeah. You're wearing this very well. You're wearing this very well.
Thanks.
It's when you've hit a certain point, it's time to teach. It's time to teach. And not everybody's a teacher, which is fine. Some people just need to continue to do.
Right.
But if you have the ability and like the influence, and not even social media influence, but the influence like that's an anointed influence. Some people, you walk in, you're like, I want to know what that person's thinking. You know what I mean? When I saw you at the gym, I was like, I want to know that person right there. And I walked up to you, and you know what I mean? So when you have that influence, like you get to share your experience. You get to guide. So, and not everybody's supposed to be a coach. We're in a very coach-centric time in life. Everybody's a fucking coach.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but you're someone who I think is perfectly suited to be doing what you're doing. And I heard you say, talking about be you. If we're able to work in our respective fields and be ourselves, that's it. That's the dream. Even if you're not making six figures, if you're able to be like this year, I was able to like tap myself the fuck up and like say what I want and do what I want and still be successful doing it. And even when I'm not doing as well financially as I was the month before, I'm like, man, I'm doing me though.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to be providing that to people, the idea of like, okay, here, I'm going to walk you through how to get this money and how to build this business, but we're going to talk about how you can be you the whole way doing it. That's a very profound thing you're providing.
Thank you.
Very profound thing you're providing.
Yeah. And it's interesting when I try to start putting a program together, I did it all backwards. I did what I thought I was supposed to put out there.
Yeah.
And if you watch anything on how to build a program, how to put a curriculum together, how to give your people what they want, like ask them.
Yeah.
Don't just make up what you think you should be putting out into the world. Don't do what everyone else is doing because you think that's what you're supposed to be doing. And, the first course I put together was all around budgeting and back end systems and shit I didn't fucking know shit about. But I thought if I put out what seems like strong, usable strategy, they'll take me seriously. And once I peeled out all the things that didn't really equate to why I was successful, I'm like, this isn't why I was successful. The budgeting wasn't part of what made me me.
Yeah.
The taking responsibility for showing up and respecting my money, that was
good.
You can't write budget plans on that.
Yeah, so good.
Right? Do you want to have a good relationship and a healthy do you think you are worthy of abundance? Yep. And when I flip my mindset around what money could do for me and the people that I love and how many more people I could help impact, money took on a whole new level of, I don't even know what the right word would be, meaning, I guess, for me. And I started to be able to see myself in a different light, that someone who could change things by having and making money. And so I rewrote the program to be more of a mindset course. And it really helped unlock people's blocks that they've had around themselves making money.
Absolutely.
Because we all have the potential.
Everybody can make money.
Everybody can make money.
It's almost not that hard to make.
It's stupid how easy it is to make money. And that was one of the biggest compliments I got from somebody not that long ago. They were like, man, you know what you're so good at? You just fucking can make money. You can make a job out of anything.
Yeah, you do.
You say you want to do something and you make money.
You make a lot. You make good money.
Thank you.
Do it.
And what's crazy is, like, I've gotten a lot of shit over the years. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, that I pivot and I do different things. But without that I'm an emotional projector. So I always
too.
Shocking.
Oh my
shocking.
goodness.
I always thought I was a manifesting generator. I was like, oh, that sounds like what I would be.
Yeah.
And then I did my test on the human design and I'm like, fuck, no wonder. This makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
If you guys have questions on human design, hit me up. But honestly, like, when you start telling yourself different stories, it's such a powerful tool to unlock what is possible. And so many people came to me with this, well, it's not about the money. It's not about the 6 figures. I just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't need to be rich. I'm like, okay, so let's break down, what kind of life do you want?
Yeah.
How much time freedom do you want? What are you doing now with the money you're making? We went over all the things and it was like, I just want a nice house. I just want a nice car. I just want to be able to.
So you want money?
I'm all, bitch, you gotta be fucking rich then. Because if you live in San Diego, even making 6 figures is just you're not buying a house. You're not going on vacations. Like,
you live in Ramona with me.
Yeah. Or you're living in Santee with your mom. But anyways, just being able to open up the minds of people to have conversations around what's possible. If making 50 grand a year can get you the life that you are content and happy with, that's what you need. When we play stupid idea time, it's something my mentor does with us a lot. What does your life look like if you put out anything that you could possibly dream of, things you've never even told somebody else? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
If all it is peace and space and happiness and walks on the beach and working 2 days a week, that's fine. We can figure out how to have you live a beautiful life on 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
That's doable.
Yeah.
But if you have bigger things in your life that you want to accomplish and do, like, a lot of it requires an investment. And that's what I can teach.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
How are we doing on time, Matt? 35 minutes. We're going to wrap this shit up.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, isn't that easy?
It's so easy.
So easy. Plug all your things.
Plug all the things. So the podcast is called Beauty Inspires Beauty. It is got its own Instagram, Beauty Inspires Beauty Shop. And then you guys can find me at Jessica Burgio on Instagram. I do have a free Facebook group for anyone in the industry. You don't just have to be a hairdresser, but if you know anybody in the industry, hair, lash, skin, send them my way. You can jump in that. And we have something super exciting coming, launching next month. It's called Behind the Beauty Brand. It's a high-level membership kind of / mastermind hybrid, where it will be forever long coaching. And it's really structured around myself as a service provider, all those things, salon ownership with my partner, Laren, who does all the back-end systems of growing and scaling salons, med spas. She has over 20 years experience growing businesses on the back end, along with branding. So the hybrid of what the two of us know, along with the way that we're presenting the information, we have an app that we're building for it.
Wow.
It's going to be next level. It's pretty good shit. So my focus for
See?
22 is going to be the podcast, bringing you guys thoughtful conversation around how to take care of yourself. And then this membership.
Wow.
Going all in.
She's doing deals. 2020 is about to be lit. If you're out here doing it, man, it's gonna be popping. If you listened all the way through, rate, share, subscribe. If you want to watch it and share the video, it's BigMood TV, and we're up out of here. Peace.